10 spine-chilling stories, exposing my cursed mom's sinister secrets that still haunt me today. Ellie's heart thumped like a war drum as she climbed the creaky stairs to the attic, her sanctuary turned sinister graveyard. The air was thick, almost suffocating, vibrating with energy that sent chills racing down her spine. She could still hear her mother's voice echoing in her mind, a ghostly whisper warning her to stay away. But now, with the weight of recent loss, Ellie was beyond caution. She needed answers. The dim light barely penetrated the dust-cloaked corners of the attic, illuminating forgotten memories along with the shadows that seemed to twist and stretch, reaching for her. Then she saw it, a weathered box, half hidden beneath an old quilt. Heart racing, she yanked it open, and a musty scent enveloped her, pulling her deeper into her mother's haunted past. Inside lay family photos, worn and faded, depicting smiles that now felt eerily insincere, as if hiding something dark. Among the forgotten trinkets, Ellie unearthed a journal, the pages yellowed, trembling with secrets yet to be unearthed. Her mother's frantic handwriting sprawled across the sheets, detailing community service projects that felt almost too benevolent. But eerie phrases slipped through the cracks: the darkness is always watching, and offerings must be made. Each line sent her pulse soaring, a creeping sense of dread inching up her neck. Initially, she dismissed it as madness, the ravings of someone who felt threatened. Yet, as Ellie sat cocooned in the attic as silence, reality warped around her. Shadows flickered in her peripheral vision. Strange whispers drifted through the air like a forgotten lullaby, the melody tangy with fear, a reminder of her mother's veiled past. The terror escalated when violence erupted in Maplewood. Families found their lives shattered, doors kicked in, homes vandalized by unseen hands. Ellie's throat grew tight, the connection becoming undeniable. Each victim seemed tied to her mother's shadowy history, and horror exploded within her. What had her mother concealed behind that warm, loving facade? Had she kept them safe, or had she unwittingly invited darkness into their lives? Ellie found herself thrust into isolation. Friends whispered, neighbors cast furtive glances. No one believed her when she opened up about the journal or the attacks. They thought she was a girl unraveling at the seams, just like her mother, who they believed had hidden truths buried in darkness. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With time slipping through her fingers and the growing dread wrapping around her like a noose, she immersed herself in her mother's words. A chilling phrase burned into her mind: the final offering must stop the cycle. Why had her mother never completed this ritual? The shadowy figure that appeared outside her window late that night, the glow of its malevolence enough to paralyze her, was proof that the darkness was not just a figment of her imagination. Then came the crash, rattling the eaves like thunder. Ellie's breath hitched in her throat. She felt it, a dark presence looming just beyond her bedroom door. How could she escape her mother's twisted legacy before it consumed her whole? Ellie's mind raced. Panic clawed at her throat as she squeezed her eyes shut, trying to drown out the chaos outside her door. The crash wasn't just an echo, it was an invitation, a siren call from the darkness she had begun to suspect lived within her family's shadows. Barely able to move, the weight of dread pressed down on her, but she couldn't just stay there. With trembling hands, she reached for her phone, desperate to call for help, to somehow shatter the suffocating gloom that threatened to swallow her whole. But the pit in her stomach deepened as she remembered that the power had flickered out moments before the world broke apart. No connection, no safety net. The door rattled again, as though something outside was testing the flimsy barrier between her and the terrors lurking just beyond. Heart pounding, she grasped the journal tighter, flipping through the pages, searching for any mention of protection or anything that might help her confront what awaited. As she flipped through, one particular phrase jumped out at her: blood is the key. Could it be? The journal she clutched was a lifetime of secrets, wrapped in the fear and pain of her mother's own demons. Ellie's mind spiraled into the implications. Was she meant to offer herself? Was that the final offering she had read about? Another thud against the door jolted her from her thoughts. She began to back away, scanning the attic for any tool to wield against the encroaching darkness. It was then that her eye caught a glint near the window, a small, rusted knife. She dashed over and snatched it up, feeling both ridiculous and resolute, the cold metal grounding her in the reality of the moment. "Mom?" she called, her voice wavering. "Is that you?" Silence. But the darkness seemed to pulse, responding with an ominous hush that stoked her fear. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across her peripheral vision, too quick to fully register. She whipped around, brandishing the knife, but found only the empty corners of the attic, cloaked in darkness. Swallowing hard, Ellie summoned all her courage. "I want to let you take me," she shouted, her voice stronger now, bouncing off the walls. She felt a newfound determination surge through her, a refusal to be another victim. Then came a soft, almost sad laugh from outside, chilling her to her core. It was the voice from her nightmares, the one she had squashed deep in her mind. It rolled over her like curling smoke, heavy and suffocating. "You think you can escape?" The whisper echoed, resonating with malice. "You will never understand until it's too late." Her heart raced as she heard the sound of scraping, claws perhaps, tracing along the wooden frame of the door, testing her resolve. If she didn't do something, if she didn't face this head-on, she'd be trapped like her mother, buried in a cycle of horror. With adrenaline surging, she lunged toward the door and swung it open. In the darkness stood the figure, cloaked in shadows, eyes glowing like embers. It was all too familiar, a memory from a childhood nightmare. Ellie felt the knife slip from her grip. "What do you want?" she shouted, dread pooling in her stomach. "It's time for the final offering," it hissed, a twisted grin spreading across its face. "And you are the one we've been waiting for." As cold fingers grasped her wrist, Ellie fought against the grip, struggling as terror flooded her veins. What if she could delve into her mother's legacy, confront her family's sins, and summon the courage to break the cycle? But just how would she do that? Would she have to step into the darkness to take back control, or would that be the very end of her? The grip tightened, icy fingers digging into her wrist like vice clamps. Ellie's heart raced, a frantic tempo against the silence of the attic, drowning out the wicked laughter. Panic surged through her, fighting against the paralysis creeping into her limbs. "Let go of me!" she screamed, twisting in a desperate bid to break free. But it only tightened its hold. The figure leaned closer, its breath a mix of decay and darkness, filling her senses with an overpowering dread. "You are bound to this legacy." Its voice was low, a raspy whisper that slithered into her thoughts, wrapping around her mind like a snake coiling tighter. "A legacy drenched in blood and suffering. You belong to it now." Ellie felt the world spin around her, disorientation mixing with despair. This thing, this memory, now forged into a dark reality, wasn't just some figment. It was real, more life-threatening than any she had ever faced. The knife lay abandoned on the floor, and every ounce of her bravery wavered. "What do you mean?" she stammered, grappling for understanding through the ocular haze of fear. "What legacy?" A flicker of amusement danced in the creature's ember-like gaze. "The blood will set you free, Ellie. Only through sacrifice can you sever the bond. Your blood, your mother's blood, what must be spilled to quiet the rage that hangs in the air." Suddenly, a vivid memory struck her, her mother, trembling and pale, sitting on the bed, whispering about family curses and dark pasts. Something terrible lingering in their lineage. Ellie's breath quickened, she could almost taste the bitterness of old secrets. She thought of the journal, the legacy written in fragmented absolution, blood-soaked and steeped in darkness. I want to be part of this," Ellie gasped, trying to pull her arm free, but the figure wouldn't budge. It felt impossibly strong. You have no choice, it hissed, and in that moment, shadows twisted in the corners of the attic. Dark vapors crept forward, curling around her feet like serpents, anchoring her to the floor, dragging her toward the threshold of horror. Her pulse thundered in her ears. If her mother had faced this, if she had been drawn into some dark dance to appease whatever waited in the inky void, was Ellie destined for the same? Would she become part of this ritual? A final offering, just like in the pages of the journal. The air turned heavier, colder. Ellie felt the suffocating grip of despair, but buried deep inside was an ember of rebellion. If she could find a way to break this cycle, shattered truths rumbled in her mind. I can change it. She shouted, a spark igniting her determination. I will not perish here. With a sudden burst of will, she pulled against the creature's grip, yanking her arm free in a surge of adrenaline. She stumbled back, her heart racing, mind reeling as darkness swirled hungrily around the room. In that split second of freedom, she launched herself for the knife. If she had to confront whatever truth lay ahead, she needed a weapon against her past or whatever malevolence awaited her. She grabbed it, glancing back at the figure that snarled from the shadows. Its face shifted, morphing between anguish and rage, and Ellie felt the air tense, an electric anticipation swelling. But the warmth of resolve faded as she saw shadows unfurl from behind it, countless movements converging, emerging to join her tormentor. Ellie, they echoed in chilling unison, a monstrous symphony of whispers that echoed the name of her family, drenched in terror. Come home to the blood. Ellie raised the knife, but doubt gnawed at her. Was it blood they wanted, or something much worse? The trembling cold seeped deeper into her bones. Help me! She cried into the darkness, hoping against hope for an ally in this nightmare, her voice nearly swallowed by the endless void. Help? A voice murmured, one that was sharp like glass yet strangely tender. Why should we help someone who denies their fate? The shadows drew in, eager and hungry, as the figure approached. Ellie found herself on the brink, not just facing her fears but the sickening realization that she might have to embrace who she truly was to survive. Her breath hitched. Was that the only way to face this haunting legacy? To plunge into darkness? What lay ahead could unravel everything she held dear or summon the shadows she longed to escape. What awaited her beyond the veil of terror? And was she ready to embrace the darkness that coursed through her blood? The shadows shifted and thickened around Ellie, swirling like a storm, each movement charged with a sinister energy. The words echoed in her mind, twisting her resolve. Why should we help someone who denies their fate? The voice reverberated, crystalline and sharp, slicing through her thoughts as if it knew her deepest fears. Panic clawed at her throat. She tightened her grip on the knife, its cold steel an anchor amidst the chaos. The figure before her began to morph, its shape elongating, twisting into faceless silhouettes that surrounded her. She was trapped, cornered in the very heart of this darkness, the air suffocating like a vice. Come home, they chanted, their cold whispers wrapping around her, tightening like noose. Ellie's heart raced. She was staring into the abyss of her lineage, the shadows calling to a fate she couldn't comprehend. You're all trapped here, Ellie shouted back, defiance igniting her voice. You can't have me. I'm not part of this. But even as she spoke, the words tasted weak on her tongue. The creature lunged, a whirlwind of shadows nearly crashing into her, but Ellie dodged, fueled by a sudden surge of desperation. She could feel the malevolence, pulsing and hungry, threatening to consume her very essence. She dashed for a narrow window at the edge of the attic, its glass stained with grime from years of neglect. Let me out! She screamed, pounding against the frame, but the glass wouldn't yield. It was an illusion, another layer of the trap, one of countless barriers obscuring the truth from her. She turned back, knife raised, meeting a sea of glowing eyes that blinked back at her. What do you want? Ellie shouted, fury mixing with terror, the question tearing from her lips like fire. The shadows hissed in amusement, a cacophony of laughter mixing with anguished wails. Blood, Ellie, blood to drown the sorrow. The whispers cascaded around her, intensifying, wrapping her in a web of chilling intent. The realization hit her again, slicing through her heart like a dagger. This was about more than her, it was about breaking cycles, about what her mother had tried to shield her from. The truth peeked through the veil like a demon lurking in the dark. The knife in her hand became a burden, fear and uncertainty heavy in her grasp. I want to kill my mother. I refuse to be a part of this. Control, the shadows hissed, turning darker. You can't control what flows in your veins. You must understand, it is here that your power lies. Off to the side, her mother's journal lay, a fragile relic of ink and paper trapped in the gloom, whispering secrets of a past filled with sorrow. It can help you, a voice beckoned from the shadows, thick with temptation. But at a cost. Ellie cast her gaze toward the journal, pulse pounding as the shadows swirled, a storm of intent and hunger closing in around her. She could feel the weight of their desires, their longing for her to join the reckoning of blood. You think you can run? The dark figure mocked, lifting an arm, summoning a cyclone of night, swirling rage and torment that lifted her feet off the ground. Ellie gasped, fighting against the unseen chains binding her, fragments of memory twisted in her mind as the shadows pressed in closer. Visions of her mother, frantic and broken, desperate to escape this family curse. Had she succeeded? Or had she just hidden it away, cloaked in secrecy, waiting for Ellie to unravel it? With every ounce of defiance left inside her, Ellie steadied the knife, the blade reflecting the dim light in scintillating shards. If I am bound to you, then I will take the darkness and wield it. I will not become your victim. The shadow shrieked, the tension in the air thrumming with danger as Ellie drew the knife closer, breathing through her mounting fear. But to what end? Did her blood hold the key, a darker connection she had yet to face? The darkness pulsated, thrumming with anticipation, as she realized what she was about to do could sever the bond. But in that moment, uncertainty gripped her heart. Would this act of defiance truly forge a new path, or plunge her deeper into the abyss? The knife hovered, trembling in her hand, trust wavering as evil danced in the edges of her vision. What does it mean to truly sacrifice? She whispered, caught in the precipice of a choice that could change everything. And then the laughter came again, mingled with the rising dread of the shadows. Soon you will know. As the chandelier overhead flickered violently, plunging the attic into utter darkness, Ellie realized the only way forward was to embrace the unknown, just as her bloodline demanded. What terrible truths awaited her in the dark? Would she truly find the freedom she sought, or was she merely stepping into a greater horror? Clenching the knife tighter, Ellie felt adrenaline surge through her. The swirling shadows around her pulsed like a living entity, their smothering presence clawing at her resolve. She fought against the overwhelming urge to flee. No more running. She would face whatever darkness resided within her bloodline. That suffocating blackness, a flicker of light appeared, dim but undeniably present. It flickered like a dying star, drawing her attention away from the cacophony of whispers. What is it? She murmured, inching closer, her instincts telling her to either embrace that light or destroy anything that threatened her escape. The shadows recoiled, a collective shiver of anger rippling among their ranks, their whispers turning to furious shrieks. Stay away from that! They yelled, a chorus of indignation and desperation that rattled her bones. Ignoring their warnings, Ellie reached out toward the light. As she did, the knife in her grip thrummed beneath her fingertips as if responding to her determination. The closer she got, the more the light expanded, weaving around her like ethereal threads. The room seemed to pulsate with energy, the dust motes igniting in shimmering luminescence. I want to let you take me, she exclaimed, the words hot with defiance. The light darted back momentarily, then surged back toward her with a fierce warmth, wrapping around her like benevolent arms. Suddenly, the journal on the floor began to vibrate violently, pages rustling as if an unseen wind had swept across the attic. Ellie's heart raced. What if the journal held answers? Read it, Ellie. The light urged her, words not spoken but felt deep within her. As though entranced, she rushed to the journal, grasping it tightly. The shadows screamed, their cries slashing through her like shards of glass. She pulled the leather-bound book closer, scanning its ancient pages for any truth it could reveal, something that might shatter the cruel fate intended for her. The words danced before her eyes, twisting into forms she struggled to decipher. Lines of desperation and sorrow pulsed under the dark ink, echoing tales of her ancestry. Words leapt out at her like hands reaching from a grave. Blood binds us, but truth liberates. What does that mean? She gritted her teeth, pulling focus on the scrawl. The light encircled her, protecting her from the shadows that flared at the edges, their hissing growing louder and more furious. Know your lineage, the light whispered, urging her on, and break the chain. Gulping down fear, Ellie flipped the page. The next passage revealed a chilling incantation, sacrificial words that hummed in her veins like a long-forgotten melody. With each line she read, memories flickered to life, the faces of those who had come before her, their eyes wide with fear and desperation, begging for an end to this darkness that had plagued their bloodline. The shadows surged, furious to drown out her resolve. You cannot escape. Ellie's heart thundered in her ears. Watch me. She screamed, her voice rising above the chaos. Each word bubbled out of her throat like venom, with a strength she hadn't known she possessed. If she was to confront her fate, she had to accept not just the darkness but the light that came with it. The air crackled as she stepped back, the knife held high. An electric pulse of fear spiked through the room, tangible and alive. The shadows recoiled, revealing fleeting glimpses of their true forms, twisted, tormented souls, forever trapped in a cycle of suffering. In that moment, she understood their pain, but she wouldn't let it consume her. Back to the depths with you. The words rolled off her tongue, power surging as she traced the runes in the air with the blade, carving a path. Yet, even as she confronted them, a sense of dread washed over her. How many had tried to resist? How many had failed? A whisper slithered up her spine. What if you're just another victim? With trembling hands, Ellie pressed forward, feeling the weight of her bloodline around her. The shadows shrieked in anger, bits of darkness flaking away into nothingness, but their desperation coiled tighter around her. Will you become the hunter? The voice of her ancestor echoed through her mind, filled with longing and regret. Would she claim victory, or was she merely the next victim in this twisted history? Her knife glimmered ominously as she prepared to face the shadows one last time. In a split second, the attic roof trembled, vibrations shaking the walls. Ellie steadied her breathing, ready to confront the truth waiting just beyond the shadows. What awaited her would either liberate her spirit or cast it forever into the darkness. The final remnants of the chandelier swayed, threatening to fall as she braced for the ultimate clash. Would she unleash the powers of her heritage, or would she slip into the fate that had gripped her family for generations? And in that transcendent moment, as the shadows lunged again, Ellie understood. The true test wasn't only to confront her lineage, it was to redefine it. But what if, in that process, she unleashed something so much darker than the shadows could ever imagine? The shadows lunged for her, a heaving mass of darkness that sought to consume her whole. Ellie felt their cold breath on her skin, a gust that froze the air around her. Her heart raced, thudding against her ribcage like a trapped animal desperate for escape. The light shimmered around her, flickering like an old television set struggling to find a signal, catching the shadows off guard. Ellie, focus. The light pulsed, not just an aura, but a voice surging through her, infused with strength and clarity. She steadied her grip around the knife, feeling the cool blade resonate with the chaos that surrounded her. This was her chance. Drawing in a jagged breath, Ellie shouted the incantation she had just read, each word dripping with power. From blood and bone, I claim my own. Shadows retreat, or face my throne. The air vibrated with her voice, echoing throughout the attic, drowning out the cries of the shadows as they twisted and shrieked. A blinding flash shot from the knife, illuminating the room in a brilliant white light that tendrils of darkness cowered away from. Ellie felt a swell of confidence swelling within her. The shadows screamed, their forms flickering with uncertainty. She could see their faces now, not just twisted monsters but reflections of the souls trapped within them, their features marred by centuries of torment. "Let them go," she breathed, the demand echoing in her heart. The knife pulsed, heat radiating through her palm as she held it higher. "You will not take another life." As the shadows writhed, Ellie felt the weight of her ancestry crash into her like a tidal wave. This wasn't just her battle. The sacrifices of those before her echoed through the walls, their regrets and fears mixing with her adrenaline, shaping her resolve. Each whisper transformed into a rallying cry, pushing back against the darkness, yet doubt twisted through her resolve. What if she wasn't strong enough? What if the shadows clawed their way back, even if she won this moment? The thought gnawed at her like a feral beast crouched in the corners of her mind, but as if sensing her hesitation, the light flared brighter. With it came the memories of her ancestors, their faces now fierce and determined. "Fight! Fight! Break our chains!" The fragmented chorus urged her on. The shadows recoiled, but not without a final, fearsome advance. They coalesced into a massive figure, a creature of despair, eyes burning like coals in the dark. "You think you can break this curse? Foolish girl. You are bound by blood as much as them." It lunged towards her, a tide of darkness intent on dragging her into the abyss. Ellie's instincts kicked in. She twirled sideways, dodging the looming presence, and with a swift motion, plunged the knife down into the floor, where the words had taken shape. "I break the curse. I free what's mine." A shockwave pulsed from the blade, radiating through the room like a sonic boom. Shadows scattered like dust in the wind, but the massive figure lunged again. Its claws raked the air just inches from her face, seething with raw hatred. The light flickered. Was it strong enough? The thought froze her breath, a frigid grip squeezing deep in her chest. She could feel despair creeping in, whispering insidiously that this was a fight she was destined to lose. As Ellie faced the creature, a fragment of clarity broke through the fog of fear. The journal. Her ancestors had left her a path, she just had to trust in it. She reached out to the remnants of the glowing light, grasping it tightly, and murmured once more, "I will not be another victim." The knife started to glow, illuminating the entire attic in a brilliant white light that seemed to rend the shadows asunder. The creature's scream pierced through her like a dagger. Each moment felt like an eternity, a last stand against the smothering weight of her lineage, but just when she felt the tide turning, the shadows recoiled, swirling around her like a tempest. "You cannot win. You do not know the true price of freedom." Ellie's heart pounded, understanding creeping in. She could feel the tension in her blood, palpable and electric. There was more at stake than her own freedom. Did she have what it would take to confront the sacrifice that might be required? And then, within the depths of the swirling darkness, she saw them, the faces of her ancestors entering the fray at her side, ready for a battle that would define them all. But what would be the ultimate price of defiance? How deep did the darkness run? Would she emerge victorious or shackled forever by the sins of her past? The darkness thickened, curling around Ellie like a suffocating shroud. The moment seemed infinite, dragging her into its weight. Shadows twisted, forming into agonized faces that momentarily flickered like flames. She felt their pain and despair clawing at her soul, begging for release. "Get out!" she screamed, her voice breaking the barrier of terror. Focusing deeper, she extended her energy, pouring every ounce of her will into the knife. "You don't own me." With a roar, the creature lunged, its eyes smoldering with fury. Ellie braced herself. The weight of her ancestors bolstered her, their spirits merging with hers. The knife blazed brighter, pulsating with power. She didn't just hold it, she became it. "Face the truth," Ellie cried, and with every word, the room trembled. She struck the knife into the floor again, this time carving out an intricate spiral. It felt like she was stitching together a broken tapestry. The light erupted with a force that shattered the near-suffocating darkness, overwhelming it like a flood. The creature hissed, retreating into the shadows, chest heaving with rage. Ellie saw its form falter, but its face twisted in a defiant grin. Futile, Ellie. You think this will end it? The cost you bear will haunt you your bloodline. You cannot erase our mark. Fear squeezed her heart, mixing with a chilling doubt. She swallowed hard and steadied herself, despite the doubt prowling inside. I don't care about your mark. She yelled. I'm breaking this cycle. You want to claim me? You'll have to fight. With renewed determination, the blade shimmered under her steady grasp, the light coiling through the air like a serpent of hope. She felt the whispers of her ancestors urging her forward, each urging solidarity. They were with her, gathering strength. She shouted the incantation again, spelling out each syllable as the darkness trembled around her. From blood and bone, I claim my own. Shadows, submit, or face my throne. The shadows pulsed in response, echoing her spell with a haunting mockery. But something shifted. A crack ran through the mass like lightning, a fracture in its dark heart. Ellie's pulse quickened. This was the moment, her moment. The air crackled with growing anticipation, it could swing either way. Bounding with newfound energy, she surged forward, feeling unshaken fury mixing with courage. The knife felt like an extension of her very being. Let my ancestors' light guide me. She shouted, plunging the knife once more into the spiral design. The room erupted in a blinding flash, the light engulfed her, her ancestors circling around her like guardians. Yet, as the light brightened, the creature let out a deafening scream, cracking the air itself. You will pay for this insolence. This is not the end. Ellie felt a freezing gust rattle her bones. Everything went dark. She blinked rapidly, fighting against the veil of shadows drifting in, hastily consuming her surroundings. The whispers dwindled, fear surged, and dread closed in around her. What had she unleashed? Was this the freedom she sought, or had she opened a door better left closed? Suddenly, a new vision appeared within the cavern of ensuing darkness. Flickers of images, lives and losses, her family's history weaving a tapestry of sorrow intertwined with shadows. A painfully beautiful family tree of torment. From the void, a soft voice called to her. Ellie. You must remember. The darkness is stronger than you think. She hesitated, battling the chill creeping over her skin. Where was she now? What price would she truly pay for their freedom and her own? And in that instant, she felt the pull of something stirring deep within, a truth waiting to be uncovered. What would it reveal? And would it break her or set her free? Ellie gasped as a wave of cold washed over her, gripping her throat like icy fingers, suffocating any hope she had of escape. The familiar shadows loomed larger, pulsating with a sinister life of their own. The voice echoed again, soft yet chilling, reverberating within the hollow corners of her mind. Remember your ancestors spoke of the cost. An unsettling recognition gnawed at her, a faint memory surfacing through the fog of her fear. It was there, just on the edge of recollection. Family stories whispered in the dead of night, only silhouettes of truth hidden beneath layers of dread. What did they go through? She murmured, her voice trembling as the shadows slithered closer, encircling her. Images flickered to life, a gallery of despair and pain. She saw her grandmother's eyes, always haunted, always alert, as if she carried the weight of the world on her frail shoulders. The whispers deepened, the shadows pressing in, and Ellie felt a fierce compulsion to understand the past. Their past. Show me. She commanded, surprising herself with her own ferocity. The walls shook as her will surged into the darkness surrounding her, the room exploded with vivid scenes. Ellie was standing now among the echoes of anguish, her ancestors trapped in the cycle of torment. Each face told a story, bodies writhing as they fought against an unseen force. Shadows gripped them too, their forms shifting, a dark mirror reflecting a disturbed legacy. We cannot sever the bond, a figure wept, clutching a faded photograph of Ellie's family. You'll be claimed. No. Ellie shouted, desperation creeping into her voice. The knife pulsed in her hand, each thrum matching her racing heart. I refuse. The figures around her turned to shadows as their cries mingled with an anguished roar that filled the air. Ellie could feel their pain clawing, desperate, echoing through the ages. The walls seemed to close in, darkness pooling around her ankles, creeping up her legs like venomous vines. Ellie grit her teeth, light flaring from the knife as she fought against the shadows, wrestling with their grip on her soul. The voice came again, this time more insistent. You must embrace it, Ellie. You must sacrifice. No. She screamed, but doubt wormed its way into her thoughts. What sacrifice? What would she need to give up? And then, in that flickering chaos of light and shadow, clarity struck. The bond her ancestors couldn't break, the thing that had marked them, it was fear. Fear is your weapon. She shouted, embracing the bleak revelation, her heart pounding with realization. She could turn it against them, with every ounce of strength. She centered herself, refusing to be another victim in this twisted cycle. You want me to fear? I will not succumb. The shadows recoiled, the faces of her ancestors fading as Ellie drew upon their pain, their struggles, channeling it into the blade. With a vengeful thrust, she drove the knife deeper into the floor, the spiral glowing fiercely, radiating a blinding light. The darkness writhed. The creature's anguished scream echoed, shaking the very foundation of her reality. Ellie! You think you can deny your legacy? It snarled, the voice distorted, filled with unrestrained malice. Desperation mixed with defiance surged through her as she yelled, I claim my own story. Suddenly, the knife sparked, and a shockwave rippled through the room, tossing her backward. She slammed against the wall, pain exploding in her back as she blinked through the searing brightness that blinded her. In the eye of the chaos, she glimpsed a shadow familiar, an aching memory. A child's laughter mingled with cries, and it was then she understood the cost of freedom was not just hers. It would reach beyond her, into realms yet unseen. Your choice, Ellie, the creature whispered, its presence reconstituting in the shadows that now felt more solid than air. Do you dare to uncover the truth? As the light dimmed, Ellie steadied her breath, every muscle tensed with fear and anger. What is the truth? In that moment, a chilling silence fell, wrapping around her like a noose, ready to reveal what lay beneath her family's curse. And Ellie knew, deep down, she was just beginning to unearth horrors untold. The air was thick with tension as the last remnants of light dwindled, leaving Ellie shrouded in a suffocating darkness. Shadows recoiled, but not entirely. They clung to the edges, whispering secrets past her understanding. Her heart pounded, each beat echoing like a war drum, urging her to face what lurked in the shadows. What do you want from me? She called into the void, her voice quivering but resolute. Fear crawled up her spine, but she refused to let it dominate. It was time to confront the creature that haunted her, that had woven itself into her very being. Do you seek the truth? The voice slithered through the air, both hypnotic and horrifying. Your family has danced with darkness. And now, it is your turn. With each syllable, the shadows pulsed and shifted, forming grotesque faces that reflected her ancestors' agony. She recognized them all, the lines of suffering etched deep in their features. Her grandmother's haunted eyes stared back, a grim warning echoing in their depths. Enough of this! Ellie shouted, fear igniting into blazing anger. She tightened her grip on the knife. I will find my own path. The shadows writhed, a tangible wave of fury crashing against her resolve. The echo of their lament rose, filling the room with a cacophony of despair. Ellie braced herself against the onslaught, feeling the weight of her family's history pressing down on her shoulders. Escape is an illusion, the creature taunted, its voice a cruel whisper encircling her like smoke. You will be bound to this legacy. The only thing binding me is the fear you want me to carry. She screamed, thrusting the knife forward, the blade glowing with an otherworldly light. I'm done being a victim. The glow pushed back against the darkness, the shadows screamed, twisting and contorting in agony. Ellie felt a fleeting sense of power surge through her, awakening something primal and fierce. Suddenly, out of the depths of the swirling blackness, a figure broke free, a woman, tall and gaunt, draped in shadows. It was her mother, or what remained of her, a chilling echo of the woman Ellie once knew. "Ellie," the figure cried, voice shrill and desperate. "You must listen. They feed on your fear. Don't become their puppet, don't follow the path we took." "Mom?" Confusion washed over Ellie, but the connection felt fragile, like glass delicately threatening to shatter at any moment. "You knew about this?" "Everything." The secrets, the sacrifices. Her mother's eyes, hollow and darkened, bore into Ellie. "I had to keep you safe. But now it's time for you to choose." "What choice?" Ellie demanded, her grip tightening on the knife, sweat beading on her brow. "You must confront what lies within you. The shadows, they want your essence, your life force. To break the curse, you must stand against them," she pleaded, fading in and out. A horrifying realization crashed over Ellie. It wasn't just about her anymore. The echo of the child's laughter returned, a chilling reminder of the life she never knew, the innocence that hung in the balance. She felt its unfair weight, the child's legacy entangled in her own. The shadows surged again, furious that their prey had not yet succumbed to despair. They lunged at her, tendrils of darkness reaching like clawed hands. Ellie's heart raced as she made her decision, a choice that would echo through generations. "Show me," she yelled, stepping forward. "I'll face it." In that instant, the knife erupted with blinding light, illuminating the entire room as she thrust it into the swirling abyss. The act sent shockwaves through the darkness, and she felt a connection ignite, a bridge between her and her mother, her ancestors, the truths buried beneath fear itself. As the shadows screamed in agony, Ellie's vision blurred, and the world around her began to splinter. She sensed not just fear, but a flood of stories, each pleading for release, each bearing the weight of sacrifice. "Ellie!" The voice rang out one last time, a sharp, piercing cry that split the air. "You must uncover the truth. Only then can you break free." And in that moment of ethereal light, the shadows shattered, leaving silence in their wake. Ellie gasped, her surroundings shifting, twisting into a kaleidoscope of memories and faces. Was this what freedom felt like? Or just another layer of the curse? As the landscape shifted again, she realized the true horror was just beginning to unfold. What horror awaited, buried within the truth? The darkness felt alive as it unwound around Ellie, coiling and writhing like a snake. Each breath she took felt charged with the electric hum of truth. Shadows whispered and twisted, their anguished faces mirroring her own fear. But in that heart of despair, Ellie saw a glimmer. Her mother's figure flickered in and out like an old movie reel. "Ellie," a voice echoed, growling like thunder, "you must not yield." Her mother's presence flickered, a fragile line between the past and present. "You are stronger than they want you to believe." Ellie felt the weight of her ancestors' pain, heavy and pressing. "I want to be your puppet," she declared, filling her voice with defiance. Each word tore through the stranglehold of fear binding her. The shadows writhed upon hearing her proclamation, a torrent of anger rippling through them. "You cannot escape the bond. You belong to us," they hissed in unison, a cacophony of suffering, with grit welling within her. Ellie raised the knife higher. The blade radiated warmth, a beacon in the oppressive night. "I break this cycle. I will reclaim what you took." Each syllable ignited her spirit, sending ripples of power through the air. The darkness howled, a furious gale surging around her as Ellie plunged the knife into her mother's journal, the spine creaking under the pressure. Light erupted from the point of contact, illuminating the fluttering pages. "Blood binds us, but truth liberates," echoed the words she had read, resonating deep within her core. The shadows trembled, their anguished cries merging into one haunting wail, as though fabric unraveling in a violent storm. "No! Do not chant that. They shrieked, leaping away from the encroaching brightness. The light engulfed them, burning away the stranglehold they had held over her family for so long. Ellie felt the surge of ancestral strength flooding through her veins, merging her being with those who had come before her. Faces of her family rose in the light, whispering encouragement. You are not alone, they sang, a harmonious blend of hope and courage spurring her on. Let me show you what you're blind to, she cried, defying the darkness that loomed ever closer. As she spoke, the space between her and the shadows warped, distorting as though struggling to hold on to what no longer belonged to them. The light emanating from the knife expanded, pouring into every nook, every cranny of the attic as the pulsating darkness recoiled. The creature materialized again, its form monstrous, eyes burning with piercing rage. You dare challenge your own fate? It bellowed, lurching towards her. Yes. Ellie replied, the very core of her belief anchoring her as she stepped forward. I choose to define my own legacy. The shadows hissed, condensing into a desperate legion clamoring for her submission. Join us, Ellie, they whispered, their voices dripping with deceit. Embrace the bloodline's power, wield it without fear. But Ellie fought the urge, feeling her mother's spirit brush against her mind, imbuing her with instinctual strength. No. I refuse to let fear dictate my past, my present, or my future. She plunged the glowing knife into the floor, carving the intricate spiral once more, channeling the power coursing through her. The room exploded with light, engulfing everything. The scream resonated, a deafening roar that shook the attic to its foundation. Shadows skittered and clawed at the edges of the burgeoning light, their cries morphing into a singular voice, a final plea for salvation drowned out by the weight of Ellie's resolve. Time to face the truth, she shouted, pressing deeper, sweat beading on her brow, her breath coming fast and wild. As she poured herself into the incantation, shadows peeled back layers of despair, revealing the roots of her lineage wrapped around the knife's blade. From blood and bone, I claim my own, she cried once more, the words igniting the darkness in a blaze of searing light. When it exploded outward, Ellie felt the ancestral spirits merging with her, their cries unified in strength. The darkness shuddered, its form flickering as though struggling to maintain its shape. You cannot end this, it screeched. But Ellie could see past the veils of fear and deception. Yes, I can, she declared, determination pouring from her soul like molten steel. The knife glowed brighter, resonating with the fury of her ancestors, and Ellie tightened her grip, plunging it deep into the spiral etched into the floor. A blinding pulse erupted, fracturing the shadows, uprooting their hold in a violent explosion reminiscent of 1,000 screams all of her family's pain released. The darkness surged as if alive, trying to claw its way back, but the spirals of light enveloped it, swallowing it whole. I will carry your stories, Ellie shouted, her voice unwavering. You will not fade into nothing. The knife buzzed, cracks pulsating through the shadows confined within, inching toward oblivion, a reckoning centuries in the making. In a final, defiant howl, the darkness splintered, scattering in the light. With every fragment that disappeared, Ellie felt the weight of generations lift, that tether of fear dissolving into the ether. The attic held its breath, the echoes of anguish and despair dissipating as peace filled the void where darkness had once thrived. Ellie slumped to her knees, raw and exhausted but free. The journal lay open, pages fluttering softly, revealing stories of hope intertwined with horror. She'd broken the cycle not merely for herself, but for every soul that came before her. As breath settled into a gentle rhythm, she felt warmth wrap around her like a loving embrace. They were gone, the shadows that had haunted her. In their place was the lingering presence of her ancestry, guiding her home, finally at peace. Thank you, she whispered into the quiet room, tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. The attic was silent now, a sanctuary of memories where once darkness reigned. Ellie stood, a child reborn into the light. She had reclaimed her destiny. For the first time, the word freedom was hers to define. As she stepped away from the remnants of the past, Ellie took one last look at the journal. It pulsed with an inviting glow, promising the wisdom and strength of generations yet to come. She would carry their legacies into the light and forge her own path. And now, dear friends, this is the moment you've been waiting for. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. You need to be part of this journey with us. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let us talk. And finally, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand how important it is to support what we do here.